you doing, Nick?
I am doing well. Dwayne, how are you?
All right. And I must say it's a pleasure to meet you too. And most interesting to me is you are an emotional intelligence coach. That's how you identify yourself. And I consider myself to be emotionally intelligent, well, more emotionally challenged.
Oh,
Yeah. My whole life. So, and to run into a person that deals with from that title, it has to incur a lot of different paths, a lot of different people, and a lot of different situations. So, exactly, what is it? What is it that you do exactly?
well, first and foremost, I am an emotional intelligence advocate. So I believe in advocating for people to get the tools that we have that can help people, especially in schools at a younger age, especially for people in certain sectors like caregivers who are helping senior citizens and things like that. So I believe in advocating for these organizations who have the funds for training and things like that to bring emotional intelligence training into these different sectors. That's the very first thing. But what I do in my daily life is I am an emotional intelligence coach and trainer. So I coach individuals who are my clients that are typically high performing adults. So these are adults who have goals and who are nurturing their careers or heads of their families or organizations. And they're finding themselves challenged emotionally, not so much with what they're trying to do, but the emotions that come with them achieving success. And so, what I do is I help them overcome those barriers that they might have on any given point in that journey. And then I do training. And most of the times when I do this training, it is with organizations or companies who have training budgets, and they bring me in to work with their teams or either their high level managers, the C suite people, to make sure that they are one tested, so they understand where their emotions are, and then two, that they have the training and the tools that they can then start implementing to begin developing a culture within the organization that nurtures emotional health. Um, in the past, you know how business has been, it's leave your problems at the door. But now, especially since COVID and some of the athletes have come out and said, "Hey, I'm challenged emotionally." Now there is a great awareness as to how important emotions are in people succeeding in life, and keeping going and not giving up and those types of things. So the training becomes very important because how do you improve your emotional intelligence if you don't have access to the information that helps you do so?
So, so it sounds to me like at one time before you say COVID or other issues, before conditions in the world start getting to be a little bit worse than where they are. It sounds like a program like that will be directed toward men. You know, men that a stereotype. They can be successful and they have to be a certain way in order to survive in the world, or they think they have to be a certain way. But when you hit a wall, you don't know which way to turn, they melt down. You know, there's a meltdown period for all kind of people, and you can't read it in a book, and nobody can give it to you. And so people either a man will either continue to be stone cold, or die of a heart attack
Yep.
because he had no way to vent. So that sounds like what you do for everybody, give them away. All the genius people that have brilliance, that got book sense, but no, they don't value themselves and never been taught to value themselves. Is that
Yeah.
kind of what you do?
Exactly. Believe it or not, a lot of my coaching clients, so I'm working with the coaching client one-on-one, right? Um, are males. The hard part about what I do is that these males don't necessarily want people to know they're getting emotional coaching,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it makes it hard for me then to have testimonials and stuff that I need to get more clients. But I'm okay with that because the training also brings in new clients. But
Mm-hmm.
it's very difficult for men to be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what's happening in the world today is that men and women are realizing that vulnerability does not necessarily mean weakness. And in the past, that's what we always thought that that word meant. To be vulnerable meant to be weak. But it doesn't necessarily mean that. It actually, in our world, means being in touch with yourself, knowing the warning signs and not ignoring them, because typically men are trained to just keep going, pull yourself together, don't give in to the weakness. There's no time to be weak or vulnerable. We got to keep going and succeed and get to the goal or to the finish line. And now people are beginning to understand that if your body wears out, your emotions is just like any other part of your body. If it wears out, it's attached to other things, the adrenal glands and different things that help you achieve those goals. So if you hit a wall, to use your words, and you don't have the warning signs before you get to the wall, that's problematic. And I do see a lot of people hitting walls and then trying to learn emotional intelligence, when the ideal situation is practice emotional intelligence before the crisis, because we're all going to get to a crisis in our lives at some point. So if you have some tools and you are practicing before, it's almost like martial arts. You're practicing martial arts, if you know anything about that, and it's not necessarily anything happening at the time, but you're knowing that these practices are going to show up for you when it really counts. And that's the same thing with emotional intelligence. The nice thing about EI, as we call it, or EQ, which is really your emotional quotient, that's actually the number that you can get if you're tested to show you where you are on the scale. Just like IQ. Most people heard of IQ, and it's your intelligence quotient. Well, EQ is your emotional quotient.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference is that your IQ kind of is what it is, right? There's not a whole lot of ways to improve your IQ. But EQ has been scientifically shown to be able to be increased and improved upon. The problem is you got to know how to do it. You got to know where the tools are to be able to practice and to be able to see your own progress. And that's what we give them when we are give our clients when we're training them.
Well, I'm glad that what about younger people? You deal with them too?
I have.
Mm-hmm.
I have had the good fortune, because when you are able to work with young people and they listen, it's truly a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I consider it a blessing. So I have had the blessing of working with young people. But I don't do that as much as I do with with adults.
Mm-hmm.
I like working with adults who have had life experiences, because I can quickly get them to another level because they have something to compare it to. With
Mm-hmm.
younger people who haven't quite lived long enough to have experiences to compare the information or the tools to, it could be more challenging. But also, there are organizations who are focused solely on young people.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them will bring me in as a guest speaker. And some of the churches who have youth programs will bring me in as a guest speaker to talk to their youth. But when it comes to actually training and working on this skill set, because it is a skill set, is typically done in the work environment.
Mm-hmm. So and you just don't start being upset with yourself. And I know, uh, I go back to 10. Uh, the first time I felt rejection was by a grandmother that I learned to hate. Love hate situation. The first time I learned to absolutely hate myself and to find ways of coping with it was when I was 13. When you get older, as I did, I'm past all that. Um, I lived through being sick and tired of being sick and tired of, having to kill myself. And I went through that. So that's a good thing. But at a certain age, I can see how it'd be a terrible thing to go through if you don't understand it. I see men, people that do things I did when I was 13 to 25, 13 to 24. And but they don't understand is not anything maybe that recently happened to them. It's that whole agenda. It's your whole person, your whole life that
Mhm.
you could be upset with about, especially the successful people that you talk about being successful. You can study your entire life about something, but if you never embrace yourself or study who you are, then there's nothing there. So I'm glad there are people like you out there. Uh, I'm glad that from 14 on, I've always talked to psychiatrists, and some of them have been my great friends. And
Yes.
I think a lot of them have learned from me, and I learned from them. In a world like we live in today, people need, somebody to embrace, somebody to talk to, because you take people that go out and maybe blow their whole families away and blow their heads off for no reason. We think it's no reason, but there's always something that can tell. You deal with people like that too.
I'm fortunate to say that I have not dealt with that level of emotional wellness or emotional illness, but I have psychiatrists and psychologists on my team that if I'm dealing with someone and I feel like that level of professional support is warranted, I can refer them.
Mm.
I am really looking for that individual who is is going through life. Maybe it's parenting, maybe it's career, maybe it's caregiving. They're going through the daily challenges of life and they're aware enough to know that something's off, right? So it's not to the point where they want to kill everybody yet. They're seeing the warning signs, or they're at least in touch enough to know this doesn't seem normal. Or I'm feeling, sad too many days out of the week. Out of 7 days, 5 of them, I feel pretty bad. And maybe I need to talk with someone. Or even better is I'm going through life, I'm on the fast track, I'm feeling pretty happy. Things are going well, but I know that it's not always going to be that way. And am I equipped to handle that crash? That's what we call it. That thing that happens in life that we unexpect, and that we are then faced with. Do I have the tools to handle myself and still be productive? So that's the thing is I'm really concerned about people's momentum, especially entrepreneurs because I'm an entrepreneur, right? And I know how tough that journey can be. So I want to be able to work with them before they get to a point where they lose momentum because they ran into a wall, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's give them some tools so that even when it gets heavy, they're able to keep moving. It might be like moving through the mud. That's what we call it. It's moving. It feels like you're moving through the mud and carrying a heavy load, but you don't stop, because it's when we stop and we don't have the tools to get back up or to get going that's when we become in the danger zone, or we call it in the red zone. So just educating people on emotions and how they work, giving them permission to know it's okay that you feel like you don't like yourself today. That's okay. Sometimes it's normal when we are high performing individuals to start expecting ourselves to be perfect. Right. And so there's the perfectionism, there's the imposter syndrome, there's so many things that we as adults go through that we are not taught how to handle in our society. Now, there are other cultures who they train children at a younger age how to talk about their emotions, how to be angry and not be disrespectful, things like that. But in the American culture in particular, we are taught at a young age, hey, suck it up, stop that crying, or I'm going to give you something to cry about, right? And those types of messages lead to adults who believe or who have come to believe that lower level or unpleasant emotions are not good. They are not to be experienced. When in truth, all emotions have a purpose. All emotions contain information. And to the degree we're able to sit with those emotions and get the information, we're able to make better decisions, especially when we're under pressure.
So, in other words, you are the person that tells that what you actually do is you let people know it's not always okay to go just because the light's green because there's a car coming. You don't always
Look
go
both ways.
just because it says you can go. It's just because life says that you're supposed to be a certain way that's not supposed to be that way. Doesn't mean that you have to be that way. And we don't have to believe all the stereotype stuff that comes along. And the life is all that beautiful as people paint it to be that are going to be problems. Oh, some of us never got to understand that.
Yeah.
Some people don't.
The other thing too, Dwayne, is that I want to help people understand that when we say practice emotional intelligence, it's not a heavy lift because life is going to give you plenty of opportunities to practice and mess it up, right? But I want them to know you're going to mess it up. You learn, grace, for instance. Let's just say you were at church and they had this great sermon about grace, giving yourself grace, giving others grace, and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna start being more gracious with people and letting people, stay in their lane. And then you go out and you go into traffic and somebody cuts you off, and all of a sudden you're not gracious. You get to that part of you that you're like, I really don't want to be like that, right?
Yeah.
That's okay. That's how you know. How do you know if you're getting better at something if you're never tested? Right.
Right.
So I want to teach people how to practice emotional intelligence in a safe and non-judgmental environment so that you can see your own progress. You can see that you don't stay angry as long. You don't blow up as far as you used to. Maybe you don't start calling people names like you used to before. And it's a progress. You can start seeing your progress. It's the little things. It's the little things that end up being our greatest successes in the end, or support us when we're really trying to go for something big.
Outstanding. So tell me in conclusion, how do people contact you?
We have a website. It is called imagewealth.com. Imagewealth.com. If you go on the website and you sign up for the mailing list, then you will receive the notifications of the different activities we have going on. We have monthly talks, they're free. We have a community membership subscription where you can go and learn different materials and tools. So if you sign up on imagewealth.com, you can get contacted and get contact with us on activities that are happening.
Is that the little
Also,
screen share that you had before?
hmm,
Yes. Could you show it to us?
yes.
Okay.
Also, they can reach out to me on that same website. There will be a box that says contact us. And if you go on there and you put your information in, you can request a call back from me or someone on my team, and we can talk to you more about the type of training and the type of services we provide.
Okay.
But the most important thing, whether it's image wealth or who it is, the most important thing is to begin this journey of practicing emotional intelligence. You can go on the web and find places, read things about emotional intelligence. There's great books out there, including mine, which is Images Power. You can order that on Amazon and you can get started. And then you can join in and practice more or get coaching as you see fit.
Outstanding. Well, I certainly have enjoyed talking to you, and it's been an awesome pleasure meeting you. And hopefully next time, next time maybe we can do something a little bit deeper and talk about some illustrations. Maybe not people, but just give illustrations and how you would help, you know,
Yes,
help people
I'd
get there.
love to do that. And I also want to thank you, Dwayne, for creating this platform and bringing people like myself on, and giving your audience the different perspectives on ways they can better themselves and move forward in life and build a happier life. So thank you for taking your time out of your busy life to do this.
I appreciate you. And
Appreciate
we'll
you.
just carry on the next time. And
All right.
say it's an honor to me, you know, because I know somebody will benefit from it and somebody will be calling you soon. Well, they already do, but somebody that hadn't.
I'm waiting. I'm waiting for those calls.
Good, good, good. Oh, but you don't have a number up here.
No, the best way to reach us is through the website.
Website. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. That's good. That's
Mhm.
good to know.
Yeah,
Then when people do search for a number, they'll know. And you'll get back with them right away.
sure will.
Right. Thanks, Mick.
Thank you.
You have a great rest of the week.
You too. Stay in the green zone.